You're watching 27 First News with closed captioning brought to you by your local Ford dealers.
Well, if you've had those itchy, watery eyes and the runny nose, you probably already know it's a rough allergy season this year.
So we called in Dr. Michael Sevilla from the Salem Family Practice to give us some tips to surviving this and getting better. Good morning, doctor. Thanks for waking up with us. The big question, everybody's kind of going through this. Amy was mentioning our newsroom, there's about a good almost dozen people who are having the symptoms. How do you know when it's time to maybe go into to see a doctor versus maybe going to the medicine counter?
Yeah, it's interesting because this year is a little bit later than usual because even just a couple weeks ago there was still kind of snow flying around. So we usually have these symptoms like last year. It was in March. So this year, a lot of symptoms. Even I'm having problems with cough and cold and runny nose and things. Right. And a lot of people, they try over-the-counter medicines first. If that doesn't work, then you usually come into the doctor's office to get checked out.
Well, do you think it's a little worse this year? I'm hearing that from everybody, and it is a sneeze fest in our newsroom. Like we were talking about this morning, it's like one after the other. And I mean, I don't remember it being this bad for several years. Is there a reason? Maybe because, I mean, we've seen a lot of sunshine. I don't know if that makes any difference.
I don't know. I think it's just been so long since we've had, really warm weather. And when the first kind of warm weather kind of hits, that's when the pollen, the tree pollen and all that is really the worst.
Right.
And symptoms are usually worse in the morning. That's usually when the pollen counts are highest, depending on the weather outside. But I agree with you. I mean, I've had really bad symptoms myself. I have a lot of patients calling this week just with those type of symptoms.
So what should you do? What should kind of be your first line of defense?
Well, firstly, is recognizing that you're having these symptoms. I mean, some people are very apt to be allergic to environmental things or even pets or that type of thing. And you could start with some pretty good over-the-counter medicines these days to start out with. And sometimes you don't even have to go into the doctor's office.
It used to be you used to go and get the Sudafed and you could get it right off the counter. And now they've taken that off and you have to go to the pharmacy to get that. The other remedies don't seem to work as well. What do you tell people to do? Should they go through the hassle of waiting in line at the pharmacy to get the real, I call it the real
deal.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, is it worth it to make the difference?
You have to catch it early. So if you catch it earlier, you can use some of the off-the-shelf things, and sometimes you have to go to the pharmacy and wait in line and do that. Some people still swear by the neti pot or swear by those nasal sprays, but you have to catch the symptoms early enough. If you wait too long, then you're going to need those stronger medicines.
Right.
Are a lot of people getting the allergy shots still? And what kind of patients are getting those? I know I got those when I was a kid.
And it worked.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I have a lot of patients say, hey, am I a candidate for allergy shots? There's a lot of good testing these days for that. There's a blood test. There's called scratch testing, so you can find out what specifically that you need to get allergy shots. So that's still a good candidate for that these days.
Yeah. In the next hour, you're going to stay with us and maybe answer some of those questions about allergy shots. Some people say, is it too expensive? Is it covered under insurance? There's tons of questions that go involved, and they don't even want to approach it. So we'll talk a little bit about the whole process when we come back.
You're watching WKBN 27 First News, where your news comes first in high definition.
Oh, you can feel it. Spring is in the air, and for allergy sufferers, the change of season means plenty of coughing and sneezing.
Well, this year seems to be even worse as pollen counts reach record highs, and our First News contributor, Dr. Michael Sevilla, is joining us this morning with some tips to beat these pesky allergies. I don't know if you can call them pesky, but your nose is constantly running. I mean, it is. It's a lot for people to deal with. We were talking a little bit in the last hour about going through the allergy shots and seeing an actual allergist, like going beyond your family doc and going to see an allergist. When do you do that?
Well, when you do that there's a lot of very good over-the-counter medicines that are out now, and I usually have people try that first. If that really doesn't do much, then you may want to think about getting allergy testing. There's blood testing, there's other type of testing to find out what specifically you're allergic to, and that's what they would base the allergy shots on.
Are some people noticing as they get older they develop allergies, or is it something that you kind of always have it as a kid and you're going to have it as an adult? Yeah,
that's a great question. Allergies can happen anytime. I have kids that have allergies, and it's associated with things like asthma as well. And sometimes they kind of grow out of it. Or I even have people 60, 70, 80 years old, they say, Doc, why am I getting allergies now? So it can develop anytime.
We were talking about the shots too, and it seemed like in my day when I was 10, 11, 12 and getting the allergy shots, it seemed like there were a lot of allergists around, and today it seems like there are fewer allergists to even choose from. Why is that? I mean, it seems like, or is that the case?
Well, I'm experiencing that too, and if my patients are asking about allergies, I think a big reason is there's a lot of good over-the-counter medicines out now. A few years ago, they were only prescription, and the only option was prescription medicines or allergy shots. But now, since a lot of them are over-the-counter now, even you have to go in line to the pharmacist, I think that may be why there's less allergists around now.
You had mentioned the neti pot in our last hour.
Yeah.
Is that, a lot of the talk shows are talking about that. Are those effective?
Yeah, for people who don't know what that is, I mean, it's a little pot, and then you put like some water in it, sometimes with salt water in it, and you put it in your nose, and it keeps your nasal passages open. Some people swear by that. It's good kind of as a preventative thing. As you start to get symptoms, it doesn't work that well, but to help prevent getting sinus infections and allergies, people still use that.
A few easy reminders. If you are an outside person, because Rich talks about this all the time, he's running outside. Important to take a shower before you go to bed. You want to get the pollen off you, correct?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So get the pollen off you. Wash your sheets and bedding a little bit more frequently. Wash it in hot water, especially people with pets. If you can try to keep them out of your bedroom because they bring in all the pollen there with them.
If they're outside, they come in. Yeah.
And pollen is usually highest in the earlier morning hours. So people who exercise in the morning tend to have more allergy symptoms in the morning.
Okay.
And hopefully, as the weather kind of cools off and some rain moves through, it kind of washes some of that pollen out of the system, so we can get some relief.
Every year I make the same mistake because I like to have the fresh air in the house, and like everybody suffers
open.
that. Yeah, I open the windows. I just want to, clear the air out a little bit, and what ends up happening is you kind of let it all that in.
Yeah, the good thing is that since it's a later pollen season this year, people only have to suffer 3 or 4 weeks instead of last year 3 or 4 months. So it won't be as bad this year versus last year.
All right, very good. Thanks, Dr. Sevilla, and we'll have more First News right after this.